Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing a beauty reset. So I have a few beauty chores that I've been putting off for the past few months, and I figured I would just do them and put them all into one video. So if you have any sort of beauty chores that you've been putting off as well, maybe you can join along with me. But the things that I need to do today are wash my makeup brushes and go through them once they're completely dry, because I am going to declutter a few of them. I just have so many brushes and it's getting to be too much for me. So that's the first thing that I really need to do. And then I'm also going to be going through all of my base products and I'm going to declutter a few of those as well. Let me know if you guys have been putting off any sort of beauty chores as well, like washing your makeup brushes, maybe organizing your makeup collection. Let me know in the comments down below. And if you want to join me and do some of these chores with me, let me know as well. But I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already, and let's go ahead and get into it. All right, so before I get into doing everything that I need to do today, I wanted to do a quick everyday makeup look, and I wanted to use my project pan items. I can't believe how much progress I've made, by the way. Not to spoil anything, but I have made so much progress with my project pan, and I didn't think I would make this much progress, at least not before the 3-month mark, which, by the way, I am going to film my first update in maybe like 2 to 3 weeks, so stay tuned for that. So I'm gonna apply the Auric Glowlust in the shade Selenite. I've been having so much fun using all of my project pan items. I honestly haven't even felt the need to buy new makeup, but I've been very consistent with using everything, and I think that's why I've made so much progress so far. But I cannot wait to show you guys where I'm at with each of the items. I am so excited. But next up, I'm using my L'Oreal True Match Nude Hyaluronic Tinted Serum. I've been wanting to do a video like this for a while now, but I just didn't really know how to go about it. So I finally just decided to do it. I know it's not anything crazy, but I overthink everything. But I just wanted to do some quick makeup before I do that. I just want to feel a little bit more put together. And this is pretty much the look that I've been doing for the past couple of months. Sometimes I switch out certain items, but for the most part, I am using all of my project pan items every time. For concealer, I'm going to use the NYX Bear With Me Concealer Serum. I've been loving this concealer paired with this tinted serum, because since the tinted serum doesn't have a lot of coverage, I just go in with this one and I focus it on the areas where I want more coverage. But it's such a beautiful combo. I think because they have that serum consistency, that's why they pair really nicely. So building it up on my cheeks, that's where I tend to get some redness. And then pressing over it with my sponge. I'm also taking my bigger e.l.f. sponge and pressing over everything. I'm going to bronze with my Nudestix Nudies Matte Bronzer in the shade Bondi Beige. I've been wearing both of the LYS cream blushes, so usually I apply the Mauve shade first. This one is in the shade Grateful, so this one I apply more towards the top of my cheekbone, and then closer to the apple of my cheek, I take the shade Unforgettable, which is more of a coral shade, and they look so pretty together. I'm gonna apply Grateful first. And then taking some of the shade Unforgettable right over top, and I'm placing it closer to the apple of my cheek and connecting it with the other shade. It might look a little bit intenser now, but once I apply powder over top, it does tone it down quite a bit. So I'd rather apply a little too much at first. I'm gonna set everything in place with the Beauty Bakerie Flower Setting Powder. And actually, I'm only gonna set my under eyes and my T-zone with this because I do have another powder. I get super greasy throughout the day, so I've been trying to use more powder than I usually do. Not like an excessive amount, but more than I used to, because I used to just go a little bit too light-handed with setting powder, and then I would wonder why my makeup wouldn't last. So I've been trying to use a little more. And then taking this Colurpop Pretty Fresh pressed face powder in the shade Light 8, I'm going to take a larger powder brush and setting the rest of my face with that. Something that I've been doing more recently is applying some of that cream bronzer to my lids. So I use it like an eyeshadow base and it holds up surprisingly well. I don't know why I had never tried that before, but I think this product, you can use it not just for your face, but I think you can use it on your eyes as well. So I've just been applying it directly onto my eyelids and I'm not that precise with it, because I am going to go in with a fluffy blending brush. So taking this fluffy blending brush from Colurpop, this is the E22. I'm just buffing out whatever's on the lid and then blending it into the crease. Taking a little bit more and I'm going to run that along my lower lash line. I could just leave it like that, but I do want to apply some powder shadows over top. So I'm going to use this Wet n Wild Marilyn Monroe palette. I'm going to mix these two lighter matte shades. I'm going to apply them to the outer corner first and then buff it into the crease. This is just going to help to set down that cream bronzer. I'm also going to run that along my lower lash line and I'm just going to use whatever's left on that brush. I'm going to apply some of this shimmer shade over top of my lids. This is such a pretty shade. And then blending out the crease one more time. I'm also going to take some of that deepest matte brown shade and I'm going to use that as a liner. So pressing it really close to the upper lash line and I'm keeping it mostly on the outer corner and then smudging it towards the center. And then taking a little bit of that lightest shimmer shade, I'm going to apply that to the inner corners. I'm not applying too much because it is a lighter, almost icy shade. So that's pretty much it for the eye look. I'm just going to apply some mascara. This is the Waterproof Voluminous Mascara from L'Oreal, and this is in the black brown shade. This is a really good everyday mascara because it is a dark brown, so not super dramatic, and it's waterproof so it doesn't budge throughout the day. And actually I think this one is starting to dry out on me. So as soon as I'm done with my no buy, I am going to repurchase this one. And then just a little bit on my lower lashes. And then for brows, I'm going to fill them in with the last bit of Glossier Boy Brow that I have. This one is also drying out on me. And I don't know that I'm going to repurchase this one. It is a really nice brow product, but I really love my e.l.f. one. And that one is super cheap. So maybe I'll buy this one in the future, maybe like during one of the VIB sales, but it's not something that I feel like I absolutely need in my makeup collection, but it is a really nice brow product. I'm also going to add some of this Kosas Baked Blush, and this one is in the shade Dreamland. I have been loving this blush, especially as like a blush topper, so I like applying it over top of cream and liquid blushes. I almost forgot to apply this one. This is the Maybelline City Bronzer. So I'm going to take this dual fiber brush from Real Techniques. I'm going to line my lips with this Merit lip liner, and this is in the shade Bespoke. This is the Signature Lip Sheer Lip Liner. It is definitely sheer, but I do like that you can build it up. And it does have a satin finish, so not as long wearing as a matte lip liner, but I really like this one for every day. And I love this shade because it is a pinky brown, but it leans cool toned. I'm going to smudge it out a bit before topping it with a lip gloss. I like that even when I buff it out, it doesn't completely rub away, even though it is more of a sheer finish. So I'm gonna top it with the By Beauty Yay Sayer lip gloss, and this is in the shade Cider Donut. I really wish this lip gloss was still available, and it's so sad that By Beauty went out of business because they did have some really standout products. But here is the completed makeup look. I feel very put together, even though I'm not going anywhere, but very bronzy and glowy, just the way I like it, and super quick and easy to do. So I'm gonna go ahead and start doing some beauty chores.
Evie, baby, you're not supposed to be up there.
All right, so the first thing I need to do is wash all of my makeup brushes. I keep all of my brushes in these two rotating containers, and all of them fit in here, but I do want to declutter a few of them because I just have so many brushes still, even though I have been decluttering them since like over a year ago. But here are all of the makeup brushes that I'm going to be washing today.
Hi everyone, welcome back. I'm going to be doing a makeup trial on myself today.
All right, so here are all the brushes that I decided to declutter. It wasn't as hard as I thought it would be because I already know which brushes I love the most, and I know which ones I haven't been using anymore. This one from Wet n Wild, it doesn't have a name on it, but this one came with the Marilyn Monroe palette, and I haven't actually used this one, but I don't see myself using it in the future, so I'd rather just pass it along to someone else. This one I did used to use, but it's not the kind of brush that I really use anymore, but this one came in one of the Dose of Colors palettes. I don't even have that palette anymore, and it's not a bad brush or anything, but I never use it, and I don't remember the last time that I did, so I'm gonna declutter it. These 4 brushes are from a set. This is from the e.l.f. J. Kissa collection. I was gonna hold on to maybe a couple of these, but I decided if I'm gonna declutter some of them, I might as well pass them along as a set, so I didn't want to just keep like 1 or 2 of them, but these are really nice brushes. I just haven't used them in such a long time, and it's really just because I have so many other ones that I do reach for, so these kind of got neglected along the way. But I do love the handles, and they are really nice and soft, so I think someone else will really enjoy these. This one is also from e.l.f., and this is the e.l.f. crease brush. I already have one of these, so I decided I'm only gonna keep one of them. This one is the e.l.f. small tapered brush, and I also have another one of these. I don't know how I ended up with multiples of some of these brushes, but the one that I'm keeping is older than this one, so I'm just gonna give away the newer one. The Sigma Buff and Blend E39 brush. I've had this one for so many years, but for some reason it never became a brush that I used consistently. I think I got this one for cream eyeshadows. That might have been why I purchased it, but I don't remember loving it for that, so I just never really used it. So this brush looks pretty much new. And Sigma brushes do last a really long time. They are really good quality, so I do have some other ones that I enjoy from them, but this one never became a favorite. This one is the e.l.f. Professional Eyeshadow Brush. I'm pretty sure I used to use this one to apply lid shades, but I tend to just use my finger, especially for shimmery or metallic shades. I have 2 of these dual-ended Anastasia Beverly Hills eyeshadow brushes. These used to come in their palettes, and I have 2 other ones, so I decided I'm gonna declutter 2 of them. I really don't need to keep 4, even though I do love these eyeshadow brushes. These 2 brushes are from Real Techniques. This one right here, I already have another one of, but this one is just from a different collection, so I'm only gonna keep the other one, which is older than this one, and this one is called the Contour Brush, and this one from the same collection is the Deluxe Crease Brush. I used to use this one more often, especially to blend out eyeshadow primer, but usually I just use my finger or a couple of other brushes. And then finally this one from Morphe. This is from the Ariel Brush Collection. I use all the other brushes in the collection, but this one I haven't really found a need to use, or at least not consistently. I think this one is a foundation brush, but I didn't like it for applying foundation because it does soak up a lot of the product, and I feel like I end up wasting a lot of it, and I haven't used it in a really long time, so I'm gonna pass it along. So in total, I'm getting rid of 15 brushes. I do have a couple of friends that like makeup and that don't have a lot of brushes, so I think they're really gonna enjoy these. I know I still have a ton of brushes and maybe I'll declutter some of them in the future, but I feel like this is a pretty good amount for me now, especially compared to how many I used to have. I am so excited to do a makeup declutter, and I'm gonna only focus on base products today. There are just so many things in here that I either don't like or I don't use anymore, and I'd rather pass it along to someone that's actually gonna use it and enjoy it. But let's go ahead and start off with primers. So this one from e.l.f., this is the e.l.f. Jelly Pop Dew Primer. I really don't like this one. It's way too dewy for me and I really don't like the fragrance. So I'm gonna pass this one along. I'm also gonna declutter this e.l.f. Power Grip Matte Primer, which I also really don't like. I hated the way my makeup applied over top of this and it just made everything patch up. So whenever I would apply foundation, everything got super textured and weird, and I just didn't think it did anything good for my makeup. I am going to keep the e.l.f. Power Grip Primer plus 4% niacinamide because this one I do really like. I like that it's hydrating and it helps my makeup stay in place all day. I'm also keeping the e.l.f. Liquid Poreless Putty Primer. I like that this one is mattifying, and because it is more of a liquid texture, it's a lot lighter than the original Poreless Putty Primer, so I've been enjoying this one and I have been reaching for it a lot more lately. I took a break from it during the winter because I really didn't need it, but now that the weather is warmer, I have been wanting to reach for this again. I have so many primers from e.l.f. and I am keeping most of them. So this one from the Tinder collab, this is the All Slick No Ick Face Primer. I like that this one is hydrating and it feels more like a lotion. So I really like mixing this one with the bronzing drops. So these right here, these are the e.l.f. bronzing drops in the shade Pure Gold. These are a really nice combo, especially during the winter when I want some hydration and I want to add a bit of bronziness to my skin, so I'm gonna keep both. This one is a sample, but this is the Hourglass Veil Mineral Primer, and I think I'm gonna get rid of this one because it is pretty old, and the last time that I used it, it did perform kind of weird. It pilled up really badly, which is not something that I remember it doing. So I'm pretty sure this one is expired, so I'm gonna get rid of it. I'm gonna keep this illuminating primer from Profusion. This one is a mini and it came in an advent calendar. I really like this primer, especially during the winter. My skin was freaking out at the time and I loved how this one hydrated my skin, and it also gave it a really pretty glow. I liked it on its own, but I also liked it mixed with the e.l.f. bronzing drops. So I'm gonna keep this one. I'm also gonna keep this One Size B12 base thinner. This one I like wearing underneath foundation, but I also like mixing it into foundation, especially more matte ones. It has a really pretty pinky pearly finish. I think I'm finally gonna let go of this one, even though I keep trying to convince myself that I do like it. I just really wanted this one to work for me, but this is the Glow Recipe Watermelon Glow Niacinamide Hue Drops. And this one is in the Sun Glow shade. So this one is glowy and bronzy. Very pretty on the skin, but it does cause some irritation. So I do get a bit red with this, and I really don't like the scent. It's a really artificial watermelon scent. So this one kind of smells like the e.l.f. Jelly Pop Primer, which I also didn't like the scent of that one. So I think I'm gonna finally pass this one along, and someone that doesn't have sensitive skin might end up enjoying this one. The Huda Beauty Easy Blur Primer, this one I do really like. It was a little bit too matte for me at one point during the winter, but I think now that it's getting warmer, I'm really gonna enjoy this one again because I like how smoothing this one is, even though it is silicone free. And then finally, I'm gonna keep both of these e.l.f. putty primers. This mini one is the original poreless putty primer, which is very smoothing. I really like this one still. And then this one is the acne fighting putty primer, which I also really like. I like that this one has salicylic acid in it, so really good for acne prone skin. And this one is really nice and smoothing as well, so I'm gonna keep both. Moving on to skin tints and foundations. These are all of my skin tints, and actually this one is not a skin tint. This is the LA Girl Pro Color Foundation Mixing Pigment, and I have this one in the yellow shade, which I don't really use. I used to use it every once in a while, but I don't remember the last time that I used this. These can be really good for changing the undertone of your foundation, but it's just not something that I really do anymore. So I'm gonna get rid of this one. This one I am gonna keep. This is the Beauty Blender Bounce Skin Tint. This one has great coverage, very lightweight on the skin, and it wears a really long time on me. So this one is one of my go-to skin tints. I'm also going to keep the Maybelline Superstay Skin Tints with Vitamin C. This one is actually very similar to the Beauty Blender Bounce Skin Tint. It might have a little bit more coverage and not quite as hydrating. Both very skin-like, and I just love how these make my skin look, so definitely keeping these. I'm going to declutter both of these Wet n Wild Bare Focus Niacinamide Skin Tints. This is just such a finicky formula. It pills up really badly, and sometimes it even peels off of my skin, so it doesn't want to stick to my skin, and I really don't like how shiny this one looks on me, so I'm going to get rid of it. I'm also going to declutter this L'Oreal True Match Nude Hyaluronic Tinted Serum. And the only reason I'm decluttering this one is because of the shade. Right now I have the lighter shade in my project pan and I really, really like it. Even though it doesn't give a lot of coverage, I like how it evens out my skin tone. But this one is in the shade 4-5 medium and it's just way too deep for me, even in the summer. I'm going to keep both of these shades of this CoverGirl Simply Ageless Skin Perfector Essence. This one has sheer to light coverage, so it really just evens out my skin tone. And in any areas where I want more coverage, I just spot conceal. Very, very fresh and pretty on the skin. And then finally, the Clinique Even Better Makeup Broad Spectrum SPF 15. It definitely has more coverage than the CoverGirl one, but I do really like this one. I just haven't reached for it in a while. And this one I have in the shade WN12 Meringue, which is a little bit deep for me right now. So in the summer, I'm gonna try to get some use out of it. Before I move on to foundations, I did want to quickly run through my luminizers. Most of these I already know that I'm not going to be decluttering because I like all of these, but I think I'm going to get rid of one of my e.l.f. Halo Glow liquid filters just because I have 3 shades and I really only use 2 of them. So I'm going to keep the shade 2 Fair/Light. This one is a really good shade for when I don't have a tan, but I am going to declutter the shade 1 Fair. This one is a little bit light, and I really don't reach for it because of that. So I'm going to go ahead and declutter this one, but I'm going to keep the shade 2 Fair/Light and 3.5 Medium, which is a warm olive shade. And then I'm going to keep this one from Juvia's Place. This one, I don't remember the exact name of it, but this one is in the shade 7. This one is more so a summer shade for me, but I can get away with using it pretty much year round. But this is a really nice luminizer. I would say it's a little bit dewier and just more hydrating than the e.l.f. one. And then this one is definitely the most lightweight option and not quite as glowy as the other ones, but it is still a really pretty product. I would say it's more of a subtle glow on the skin. So this one is the Maybelline Instant Age Rewind Perfector 4-in-1 Glow Makeup. The only thing I don't like about this one is the packaging. It's not that bad, but I don't love this sponge applicator. But I love this luminizer, especially in the summer when I want something more lightweight and not quite as hydrating. And this one I have in the shade 01 Light, so I'm gonna keep this one. And then the only other luminizer that I have in my collection is the Auric Glowlust, which I don't have in this container, but I do have it with the rest of my project pan items. So of course I'm gonna keep that. Okay, moving on to foundations. This one I am going to keep. This is the L'Oreal True Match foundation in the shade W2.5. Even though this one is a little bit light for me, I do really like mixing it into other foundations. I think this one has a natural matte finish, so it does mix really nicely into other ones. Surprisingly, I am going to keep this one from Maybelline, even though I didn't like it the first few times that I tried it. This is the Up to 30 Hour Wear Lumi Matte Foundation, which I really didn't like and I almost despised the first few times that I tried it because it was just so matte on my skin and it emphasized every little pore and bit of texture that I had. But somehow this one looks pretty good on me now, so I'm just gonna keep using it. I think it's definitely because of my skincare routine that I can wear a lot more foundations nowadays and not feel like they make my skin look worse. So I'm glad that I kept this one around, even though it didn't really work for me at first, but now I do quite like the finish. I am going to get rid of this Fenty Beauty Soft Lit Hydrating Foundation. I think that's what it's called. It just gets really greasy on me, so I don't think I'm the right skin type for this one. But I do have 2 shades of this one. This one is in the shade 225, which is a pretty good match for me. And then I also have 235, and this one is a little bit deep, so I was mixing these at one point. Maybe not every single time. I think I was usually using the lighter shade, but sometimes I did mix them. I'm gonna get rid of one of these L'Oreal Infallible Fresh Wear foundations. This one is the older formula, which is still my favorite. Even though I do like the new one, I really don't have any complaints about it, but there's just something special about this one. But unfortunately, this one is pretty expired, so I don't feel comfortable using it anymore. It keeps separating in the bottle and it just looks a little weird. So I'm gonna declutter this one, but I am gonna keep these 2 shades of the new formulation. So I have 440 and 460. I am gonna keep this NYX Born to Glow Naturally Radiant Foundation, which on its own is a little bit light and maybe a bit dewy for me, but this one has such a beautiful radiant finish. I mainly use it to mix into other foundations, but if I did have a shade that was deeper, I would probably just use it on its own. And this one I have in the shade 6.5 Nude. Sadly, this one is discontinued, so I don't even think I can get a deeper shade anymore. The Huda Beauty Easy Blur Foundation. This one I have in the shade Toasted Coconut 240N. Just like with the Lumi Matte Foundation from Maybelline, I didn't like this one at first, and then when my skincare routine improved and I didn't have quite as much texture, this one ended up looking pretty good on my skin, so I am gonna keep it. It's still not a favorite, and I don't love this foundation, but I do think it looks pretty good overall. It's just not something that I would repurchase. I am gonna declutter the Hourglass Ambient Soft Glow Foundation, and this one I have in the shade 7. I used to really like this one, but I don't like how heavy this one is. I find that this one emphasizes my texture and any little dry patches that I have, and it also makes me quite shiny, so I think it's time to let go of this one, even though I did used to really like it. It does have a really pretty soft glow finish, just like the name says, but it's a little bit much for me now. This one looks a little funky. This is the Essence Keep Me Covered Long Lasting Foundation. I didn't really use this one much. I think I used it maybe just a couple of times, so I don't fully remember how I felt about this one, but I think I liked it. But I think it might be expired at this point, so I'm gonna get rid of this one. And this one I have in the shade 110 Buff. The Impeccable Foundation from Anastasia Beverly Hills. I feel like this one is too heavy for me, and I don't feel like it lasts that long on my skin. And surprisingly, even though it is very matte, it does get very greasy on me throughout the day. I fell for the hype, and I should have known that this foundation is just not the right one for my skin type. So I think this one is just not for me. I'm definitely keeping my NARS Light Reflecting Foundation. This one is in the shade Punjab. And this one can get a little bit dewy, but pairing it with the right primer, I find that it lasts longer, and I really like mixing this one into other foundations as well. I do have a sample of this lighter shade. This one is Fiji, which I don't even use anymore. I used to mix it into Punjab sometimes, but I don't feel the need to do that. And it's also starting to separate in the bottle, so I'm gonna get rid of this one. And then finally, I have 3 shades in the About Face the Performer foundation. This one does have a really pretty finish, but I find that the key with this one is to not use too much product, or else it can look heavy and cakey. But I'm gonna keep this one in the shade LM1 Warm, which on its own doesn't match me the best, but I do like mixing it with one of the deeper shades. So I'm gonna keep this one in LM2 Olive as well. This one has such a good light medium olive undertone, which is so hard to find, especially with more affordable brands. So I'm gonna keep this one to mix into the lighter shade, and I'm gonna get rid of this one in the shade M1 Warm, which I never use. As far as concealers, I don't think I'm going to be decluttering most of these. And as far as drugstore, I'm not going to declutter any of them just because I do use all of these concealers. So my Wet n Wild Mega Last Incognito concealers, I definitely am keeping. These are very full coverage and I really like these, especially for spot concealing. My e.l.f. Camo color correctors, I have green and peach. The Maybelline Instant Age Rewind Eraser Concealer. This is one of my top favorites and I'm definitely going to repurchase this one whenever I run out of it. This one from Milani, this is the Under Eye Brightener in the shade O2 Melon. I don't use this one that often, but I'm going to make it a point to use it because I really like the undertone of this one for correcting under eye circles. And I like how hydrating it is, so I'm going to try to use it more often. And then finally, the Maybelline Fit Me concealers. The last time I used these, I think was in the winter, and they did look a little bit drying on my under eyes. But now that we're heading into warmer weather, I'm going to try to use these again and see if I still like them. So I'm going to keep them for now. And then for high-end concealers, I'm going to get rid of these ones from Kosas. I believe this one is called the Revealer Concealer, but these are way beyond expired. The last time that I used these, I really didn't like how they looked on my under eyes. And even for spot concealing, I didn't really like it anymore, especially because of the shades. These are so yellow, so they've never been a good match for me. So I'm gonna go ahead and toss these out. I'm gonna keep this Tarte Creaseless Creamy Concealer, even though I don't love it. I can get it to work, but I just didn't think it was worth the hype. And I kept hearing so many good things about this one, but it's just a little bit heavy and not as creaseless as I thought it would be. So I'm gonna keep it and get some use out of it, but definitely not a favorite. The Lancome Teint Idole Ultra Wear All Over Concealer. I still like this one, but I wouldn't say it's a favorite anymore. It can look a bit heavy on my under eyes now, even though it didn't used to, but I think it's just because I have more fine lines on my under eyes and I have more dryness as well. So it doesn't look as good as it used to, but I still use it from time to time because it doesn't look terrible. But I think I'm going to use this one mainly to spot conceal now. And this one I have in the shade 250. The Makeup Forever Self-Setting Concealers. This one I still really like, and I love how skin-like this one is. And I like to use both of these shades, just depending on my skin tone at the time. And then the House Labs Triclone Skin Tech Concealer. This one is one of my favorites, and I do use both of these shades, but I tend to use the shade 13 Light Neutral the most. That one matches me a lot better than the other shade that I have, which is shade 10. But I do use both of them, and like I said, this one is one of my all-time favorites. So these are the high-end concealers that I'm keeping, and then I am decluttering the Kosas Revealer Concealers. The only other concealer that I didn't show here is the NYX Bear With Me Concealer Serum, because that one I have with my other Project Pan items, but that one I am keeping. The only loose setting powder that I'm going to declutter is this one from Wet n Wild. I do really like this powder, but I already have another one of these, so I don't see the point in having two of them at a time, especially because I have so much product left. So I'm just going to keep this one, and they are slightly different. This one is from the Peanuts and Wet n Wild collection from a few years ago, and it's not quite as matte as the original one, but I really can't tell much of a difference. So I'm going to keep the original, and I am going to keep the pink one as well. This one I've really been enjoying. It's pretty much the same as the original loose setting powder, but it does have a pink tint. And then of course I'm keeping my Makeup by Mario talc-free powder. This one isn't super matte, at least not compared to some of the other ones in my collection, but I love how this one sets my makeup. And then another pink powder, but this one is from About Face. I love this one as well, and I think this one is also talc-free, but very smoothing, and I like the pink tint that it has. Of course, I'm keeping my Huda Beauty Easy Bake Powder in the shade Pound Cake, and the Kimchi Chic Puff Puff Pass Satin Bake Powder in Translucent. Not quite as matte as the Huda Beauty one, but very similar, I would say. So in total, I'm technically keeping 7 loose setting powders because I do have the Beauty Bakerie Flower Setting Powder in another area. That one is a part of my Project Pan. For pressed setting powders, I'm also only going to get rid of one of these, and it's really just because of the shade that's a little too deep for me. But this is the L'Oreal Infallible Fresh Wear Powder Foundation in the shade Golden Beige. I really like this powder, but this shade, like I said, is too deep for me, so I'm only gonna keep this one in the shade 190 Beige Sand. This one has really great coverage, and I especially like pairing it with a skin tint. So I'm gonna keep this one, and I'm gonna declutter this deeper shade. And actually, I am gonna declutter one more pressed powder. This is the e.l.f. Halo Glow Powder Filter Pressed Powder, and this one is too shiny for me. I don't really feel a need to use this one. And if I'm gonna use a finishing powder, I'd rather just use the ones from Hourglass. I have a couple of those in some face palettes, so I'd rather use those because they do look a lot better on my skin than this one. This one can be a little heavy, and even though it is glowy, it's almost too glowy for a finishing powder, so it almost looks like a highlighter, especially if I apply too much. But since it does have some coverage, it ends up looking kind of weird on my skin, so I'm just gonna declutter this one. I did try to make it work, but it's just not the right product for me. And I only use this one as a finishing powder, by the way, because this one as a setting powder I think would be a disaster. I really don't see this one working as a setting powder for anyone. I feel like it would emphasize every little bit of texture and make you look extremely shiny. So this one, if you're gonna use it, I really only recommend using it as a finishing powder and not a setting powder. This one I am going to keep, however. This is the e.l.f. Prime and Stay Finishing Powder, which even though technically it is a finishing powder, I do like to use this one to set my under eye concealer, and I don't have any issues with it. It sets everything so nicely, so this one is a top favorite for me. I also love the Essence Brighten Up Banana Powder. I would say this one is a little more matte than the e.l.f. one, but I do like that it's slightly brightening without looking overpowering, so this is another favorite of mine. And then the Charlotte Tilbury Flawless Finish Setting Powder. I can't believe I still have this one because this one is a small sample, but I've been using it for the past couple of years. I just don't use it very often, but I do really enjoy it, and I have been trying to use it more lately. So this one I'm keeping, and I am going to try to use it more. So here I have 4 pressed powders that I am keeping, and I do have the Colurpop Pretty Fresh pressed powder in another area because it is in my project pan. So technically I'm keeping 5 pressed powders, and I'm gonna get rid of 2. This looks so much better even though I didn't get rid of that much makeup, but this is everything that I'm decluttering. Alright guys, so that is it for today's video. I really hope you enjoyed this beauty reset. Let me know if you did any beauty chores along with me, or even just any regular chores. Let me know in the comments down below, but I hope you guys have a good one, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!